First, I want to extend my condolences to everyone who's lost someone, from my family to you guys. Each time I have to come into a setting of this nature, it sickens my stomach that we even have to convene in this manner. Some cases we hear about and some we don't. And I'm sorry that you guys have to go through this. I'm sorry that we have to go through this. I can't really speak on the case itself because we're still going through. However, Reverend Bonner, she'll speak to that for me. And then I'll let you guys know who Sandra really was, not who the media would like to portray her as.
So there's still a civil trial going on, and so Shante asked me to share from my perspective what's happened.
Will you share with us what you have been doing and in your participation with the Bland
I'll just
family?
speak for myself. I'm not speaking for Shante. So on the Tuesday, July 14th, the Prairie View alumni were really very active on social media and began to ask the question, what happened to Sandra Bland? I'm very close to a lot of Prairie View alumni, and so a lot of people who knew Sandra and who believed that something had gone wrong. We very quickly began to hear that Sandra Bland had been arrested right outside the gates of Prairie View. In the video that you see, the camera's pointed away from the gates of Prairie View. But if you're where she was standing, you would see the gates of Prairie View University just 2 blocks away. And you would see that she was right in front of Hope African Methodist Episcopal Church. She was arrested right outside their parking lot in the grass. Sandra spent the weekend in the jail. It was significant that she was arrested at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon. I spent the next 80 days in front of the Waller County Jail, and one thing that I learned during that process was that much like a hospital, the jail kind of shifts their attention on the weekends from care and release of patients as the hospital does to visitation, and at the jail they do the same. So the time that she was arrested seems significant to me, that she was arrested at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon when the jail would be shifting its focus from the regular work of the week to focusing on visitation rather than releasing folks. It's a small rural jail. So as the uproar among Prairie View alumni in Houston began to rise, by Wednesday there was articles coming out that said that the family and the friends of Sandra Bland did not believe the official report that the police were putting out, which was that Sandra had committed suicide. On that day, when I read the article that Sandra's family did not believe that she'd committed suicide, I spent hours in silence, and I had a friend sitting with me at the time, and I said, finally to my friend, I said, I'm about to do something. Something's going to change. And we went from there to Bible study, and After Bible study, we decided to go to the Waller County Jail at 10 o'clock at night. It's in a rural location, and we wrote the question that Sandra's family and friends were asking, what happened to Sandra Bland, on a candle, and we lit it, and we put it there, and a guard came and blew it out. So we lit it again, and we kept coming back every day for 80 days. We learned a lot about the situation that Sandra Bland must have found herself in, because she's not here to tell us. And nobody from inside of the jail has been willing to speak and to tell us what she went through when she was inside of there. On the 20th day of being at the jail, the sheriff came out of the jail and told me to go back to the Church of Satan. I'm United Methodist clergy, and that was the beginning of really some intense intimidation from them that continued to reveal their practices in that county. So, what we know, there's a reason why we keep asking what happened to Sandra Bland, because there's a lot we don't know, and she can't tell us. But what we know is that on July 10th, Sandra Bland was driving off of the campus of Prairie View after just receiving a job there. We know that she was, a police officer began to tail her while she was still on campus, that he followed her to see if she would do anything illegal. I can speak for myself and not for anybody else in saying that I was at the initial opening statements for the civil trial, and that the attorney for the officer said that Officer Brian Insinia had seen Sandra. He thought he might have seen her run a stop sign, but he wasn't sure. And he wasn't sure if it was actually a stop sign or another sign. So he decided to follow her to see if she would do anything else. That's what the attorney said in Houston, Texas, at the federal courthouse. So he followed her off campus, and as you can see if you've seen the dash cam, he began to accelerate towards her as they came out of the gates of Prairie View. And so the gates of Prairie View has one lane, and the road, which is now Sandra Bland Parkway, although they have not put up the signs, it turns into two lanes as you leave. And so as he accelerated and as she was coming into Sandra Bland Parkway, she, of course, as many of us do when somebody accelerates behind us, she got over to the right. When she did that, he pulled her over. So we already know that he was tailing her, as his attorney said himself, to see if she would do anything illegal. And then he accelerated fast behind her to, as it would seem to me, push her to do something that he could pull her over for. And so she came to the right lane, and he pulled her over right in front of Hope African Methodist Episcopal Church, which is the denomination that she is a member of. And as you've seen, if you've seen the video, we're not going to show it right now out of consideration for her sister. But if you've seen the video, first he's just giving her a warning, but then he seems to kind of taunt her and say, and then he opens her car door and tries to, pull her out of her car. And then he pulls a taser on her and orders her out of her car. And consistently throughout the whole video, she's saying, what am I being? Why are you doing this? And the officer never gives her an answer. And so he leads her out of the line of his camera so that nobody can see what he's doing. And then we have cell phone footage of her on the ground in pain with his knee in her back. There's another police car that pulls up, driven by Officer Penny Good. They claim that they don't have a dash cam from that. That's their claim. Her dash cam would probably have caught what really happened. Officer Insenia claims that Sandra kicked him after he had intentionally led her with his taser out of the line of his camera. They then arrested her and, as I said before, booked her into the Waller County Jail, which is in a rural county in Texas, about an hour west of Houston, 2 hours east of Austin, and the last county in the United States where the slaveholding plantations were closed. Slaveholding plantations weren't closed in Waller County until 2 months after Juneteenth. So it's the last place in the United States. That's it.
So who my sister was, she was a beloved daughter to my mother for 28 years. She was a funny sister to 4 of us. She had 9 nieces and nephews whom she loved. She was very bold. She was very unapologetic about how she felt. She would tell you exactly how she felt, whether you liked it or not, and tell you it out of love. She was smart, dependable. She had a heart of gold. She would help you with anything if she could. She loved the kids, not just her nieces and nephews, but all the kids. She was excited about going back to Texas to start this new job. Her and my mother had took a trip to see our family the week prior, and they returned on that Monday, which was the 6th, I believe. The next day, she got on the road and drove by herself to Texas. She wanted this job so bad that she left driving by herself. And we still devastated, we upset, we hurting, because it is now day 124 and we still don't know what happened to my sister. So that is why we're still asking people to say her name. Keep asking what happened to Sandra Bland. And just ask that justice be served for my sister. And that those responsible are held accountable for their actions. Thank you.